Well, everyone, welcome back to Star Wars is Canon. My name is Chris Higgins, and today I'm joined by a wonderful guest, Joe from the Brothers Krynn, back to talk Star Wars. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, but wonderful? I don't know about that.
So, yeah, I mean, you're from Canada, so how are things up in Canada right now?
Well, so. Well, I'm between teaching contracts, so I'm basically bored, though I'm back in school, and, I'm going to be back in teaching in October. Thank heavens. Because I can't, well, it's not just about money. Like, I could leech off relatives, but I basically work because I want to. I love to. I can't live and breathe without it. But then again, I'm poor. I'm the poor family member, so I do need to work for money as well. But
we all do. We all need to work.
Yeah. I think with those of us of European descent and Asian descent, there's a psychological need more than there is a physical need for work. And yeah, anyways. But, well, my essays are getting a little more attention, and my web novels are getting more and more popular on Royal Road and on Substack. So, that's pretty cool. So everything's going pretty well. How about you?
Yeah, Star Wars, I things have been going well for us on the podcast. Me personally, have been doing good. The better weather in Chicago has been boosting my spirits.
That's good.
Yeah, because I like to. I'm very like sports driven outside of work, and like I like to work out. I like to play team sports a lot.
Okay. Well, I used to, but then I stopped. But my brother's been pressing me to, once I'm over in France in October, to just get a gym pass and just start going to the gym and learning boxing. Because I learned swordsmanship, why not learn boxing? And
that's cool.
Yeah, he's been pressuring me for years to do that, so I'm thinking I'm going to do that. I've been out of sports for a while. I used to do tennis, swordsmanship, and also skating and swimming. So yeah, I do get it. But hey, so as for Andor, wasn't there there was a lot of drama surrounding that scene, the sex scene, or at least the attempted rape scene.
Yeah, I know that created a stir, and I think a lot of it was on Substack. I'm not sure if the average normie was really concerned about it.
I don't think so. It created a stir on Twitter, but Twitter, everything is a stir and a dumpster fire.
Yeah, that's like it's meant to be controversial. It's sort of like you're supposed to be on there to fight with people.
Yeah.
Isn't that what it's all about? I mean, it used to be that. Now it's just stupid like videos like TikTok, but worse. Like I find the quality of video on TikTok and Instagram Reels, like if I want that, I'm just going to go on there. If X is trying to push videos to me, then I find myself feeling like I'm consuming raw sugar and I have to like get off like very quickly.
It's slop.
It's definitely slop.
Yeah.
But it's like the sloppiest slop. Like it's really, it's not even like, it's not even slop that's like tastes good.
It's basically the McDonald's equivalent of social media and the like. And you're supposed to basically be the most, like the only way to gain a following there is to be the most toxic, obnoxious, stupid, racist, whatever, pick your word, version of yourself. Now, I'll argue some racism, like pattern recognition, one might say, might be a healthy thing at times. But the thing is though, Twitter takes everything and dials it to an 11, to the most toxic levels. And it's just I know some people who are convinced it's the best place to build a platform as an author and whatnot. And it's like, are you insane? It's the worst place. But on the other hand, I have seen some start to gain success through there by being total assholes. And they start gaining a following and making a lot of money off it. And I'm amazed at that. But YouTube, YouTube used to be slop, but I've been noticing it's getting a little better compared to Twitter because everybody who's an asshole is migrating to Twitter. And so YouTube is just left as a normie site. And that's probably for the best.
YouTube can really surprise me sometimes with the video that it will show. And sometimes like they I don't know, I don't know a lot about algorithms.
It's insane. The algorithm on YouTube doesn't make any sense.
Right? Like it has so much data to pull from that to me it does seem to be a very sophisticated algorithm. Sometimes I can tell it's just being like, hey, this is a similar video, you watch this, how about you watch this? But then sometimes something will come out of left field and I'll be like, how did they know that this unrelated topic would be like interesting to me? Whereas X is just, oh, watch this guy approach someone on the New York street and say something to her, and wow, look at that reaction. Or they show someone like getting into a fight, and it's just like it's the lowest of low content.
Well, yeah, that's precisely it. And like I got bored, and I also got bored of when it comes to Star Wars and whatnot. In particular, of the infighting over, the various trilogies and whatnot, because it's like, okay, we get it. Like you either, some people, you hate the prequels, but you also hate the sequels, or you hate the sequels, it's like, just like, it might sound weird, but it's like, with the people whom it's like, okay, so you don't like episodes 7, 8, and 9, but you're going to watch the other Disney stuff. Like, it's all connected to episodes 7, 8, and 9. What are you doing? If you say you hate Disney and its products, then hate them. Don't cherry pick. And then bash everybody else for pointing out you're cherry picking. Just embrace that you're cherry picking. Or just, you know what I mean? Like, either flush the toilet or, like, get off the can and flush the toilet, or don't. It's like... If, like, for example, with Star Wars EU sequel novels, I cherry pick what I like, and I cherry picked what I didn't, but I generally said they were mostly trash. But the novels that span Luke Skywalker in his 30s are pretty interesting. It's when the character hits his 40s that it all becomes slop. But
which character? Could you say who was that again?
Luke Skywalker. When he's in his 30s, early 30s, there's some interesting stories. But once he nears his 40s, the writers just took him and drove him into the ground, episode 8 style. And so that's where it's like, well, that's slop. Or you have to point out, I don't like the Disney sequels and whatnot, but when you rightly point out, the EU sequels were just as trash, that people get up in arms. But it's all slop. It's not of the same quality.
It's good to point out that a lot of the EU stuff isn't any good either, but there's so much of it, right?
Yeah,
and there's so much it's like they just opened up the floodgates to anyone, and not a lot of quality control, and maybe that's why we ended up with this big Disney thing.
The only thing that had quality control was the prequel era novels and the ancient period of the Jedi. That was the only place that there was quality control, because George cared more about trying to streamline that and making sure it was in line with the continuity and didn't contradict Luke Skywalker. But he completely neglected the sequel era, because he just thought, well, I've got so many people who are interested in that era, surely they'll quality control themselves. And when he looked back at it, he went, holy crap, you guys took a big dump on my universe. Well, I got to come in and I'm going to plan out another 3 movies. And I'm going to basically just tear out what doesn't work and put in what works. And, like, the other thing is, people forget Kyle Katarn in the Jedi Knight series was canon. And George Lucas had a hand in that stuff. And he was, very concerned with it. So when he saw authors retconning out Kyle or retconning him back in and then contradicting stuff from the Jedi Knight series, I did remember reading up how Lucas was displeased with that, and so you had to come in and you have to. The problem is the EU in the sequel era, after Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy became such a mess that it's hard on the head of the company to manage all that. And the minute he starts putting his foot down, saying, "Okay, there's some trash here," people start pushing back, and George was a shy man. He never liked fighting or conflict. So, you then start having that conflict between the very timid CEO and the fan base. And the thing is, when it comes to Andor, I would argue it was really bad because it was EU sequel level slop. Now, this is my point. When you have your choices of the sequel eras are always slop or more slop. You either get the EU post 35-year-old Luke slop, or you get the Disney slop. It's just your choice. Which is it? Burger King or McDonald's? None of it is real food. It's not real food unless you go to Japan where they actually make real food, and then they say, well, it's McDonald's, but clearly it's not because it's actually much better for you. But we'll leave Japan out of it. But like I said, it's just...
But that's where they went. That's where Star Wars Celebration was this year.
Oh, that's good.
Did you know that?
No. But the thing is, Andor kind of jumped the shark with a sexual assault scene. Now, I'll actually say, it's been kind of implied in Star Wars a few times that there was sexual assault. And there was sexual slavery and whatnot. But the thing is, it was always kind of skirted around. We never actually leaned right into it because this is for kids. And it got uncomfortable, when you lean too much into that stuff. Because the thing is, Star Wars is supposed to be a mythology set in the future. It's meant to be tasteful. And an outright sexual assault scene on screen is tasteless, just like a sex scene would be. But that being said, we've had the hinting, I should say, or the implication of a sex scene. I mean, Secrets of the Jedi had the implication of one between Obi-Wan and Silly. They very strongly hint at that. You have Anakin and Padme a number of times. You have, Bane and his love interest, whom I forget the name of now. You have countless implied scenes. But Star Wars is always skirted around.
Wasn't there stuff with Palpatine too? Or I don't know.
Yeah.
I never directly saw
Palpatine,
that stuff in anything I've ever read, but it's like
Palpatine was we know for a fact. We know for a fact he had a harem. He had a son, and he had a grandson, Ken. Now, I think was his name. But the thing is, Palpatine, it was strongly implied in quite a few places. A lot of the women did not consent. Some of them did, but many of them didn't. So there was always the implication. But this is.
But if I could really quick say that just having a child, though, having offspring, is not saying anything too controversial, because as long as you're not talking more in detail, there's nothing about it that is like out of bounds, even in a kid's sense.
Yeah, I
they can get
concur.
it right.
Yeah. It's just discomforting the minute you start to put that on the screen. Like, it's something that the problem is it's always tempting to try to shock your audience. You know what I mean? Like filmmakers
yes.
and whatnot. Like, how shall I put it? Dan and I have written a few scripts, and we're currently writing a pilot script for a just to try to pitch it to a director and some téléfilm cinema people over in Quebec. And the thing is, like in there, there's we do try to shock people a little, just with some minor detail things. But the thing is, now for one thing, French cinema is very different from American cinema. Like you have the hero who might slap his wife. For Americans, when I told a few American friends, they were shocked and they said, "He can't be the hero after that." But in French cinema, this is like, no, he's still the hero. Oh, so he slapped his wife. Okay, well, she was mouthing off. And there's, like that's the sensibility, difference in values. But the thing is, now it's not portrayed as being exactly okay, but it's portrayed as something that just happens. Sometimes your wife gets, like the Sean Connery thing and whatnot. And where she gets hysterical and then he has to slap her and that,
yeah,
restores sanity. But the idea is that, like this is why, for example, when I saw this sort of thing in Japanese cinema, eventually it didn't shock me as much because it was like, yeah, okay, that's what you do. American cinema shocked me at one point when I saw, someone demonized for that. But you see, I was young, but now I understand the difference in sensibilities and whatnot. But you see, it's always tempting to shock your audience. I understand that. But Star Wars is something you go for a different kind of shock. It's like, for example, Episode 3. There's too many of them. What should we do, Master Skywalker? Remember that scene? And Anakin just flicks on his lightsaber. We don't need to see him butchering the kids. But we're already shocked. We're looking at that and going, oh my gosh. He's about to murder a room full of children. He has truly become pure evil. That shocked us. That's all the shock you need. Star Wars never crossed too far along the line because we don't want it to. It's fairy stories in space. We don't want it to shock too much. Just enough for it to be Brothers Krynn level. But not more than that. Andor, with the guy, I think it's trying to use the Force to persuade her to have sex with him even as he's assaulting her, that's going too far. I don't know what your thoughts and feelings on that are, but I feel
so it's an Imperial officer that he's, I can give you some more context. Mm-hmm. The character's name is Bix. She's of Latin American descent. She's a Latina woman. She basically is working in a hut, in a field. It's kind of it kind of reminds me of the kulaks or in Russian history. But basically they're just farmers. They're just they're getting the grain and the empire's there to collect their cut. But they come in there to do a little bit of extra too, asking her, oh, where's your husband? Oh, your husband's gone. And then coming back. And there's some elements to it that are scarily accurate to how you could see this happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he's just coming in there all aggro all at once. He kind of has this little bit of a crazy evil look in his eye. And you can see that he's you can tell right away as the viewer, you already know what he wants to do, but he's trying to figure her out. And he just assumes that he can just, take her, have his way with her because of who he is. But to your point, I think just the look and then maybe the aftermath could have been enough, but to give us the picture, just that initial, once he started asking her, where's the husband? Why is anyone else going to be here? Or do you want to do this with me? And she's like, deny, deny, deny. You you definitely got the picture, right? He doesn't have, he uses force. I thought you said he used the Force. He uses force. He did not. Yeah. So he's just an Imperial, officer type. And it's why is this guy sniffing around? Why is he alone with this woman? It's okay, yeah, she's beautiful and it's obvious what his intentions are. I think he thinks that he can, get it, consensually. Like he thinks that like, oh, well, obviously because of who I am, like she's gonna want this, right? Like she'll know that it's in her best interest, and you know, she must be so impressed by my stature because she's a lowly peasant.
So that's what happened.
So that's how.
All right.
Yeah, so that's kind of how it starts. The way that it goes though is that he does go to try to force himself on her, and then she defends herself, and yeah, she kills him in defending herself.
Is fine. The trouble is, like we could have the cut to black and then him stepping out dead or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right. You could have had that, and I think there's a lot of roots in our culture that wants to show like shock, yes, but also specifically sexual assault, and in the lens of a white colonial man, doing in a white colonial setting of coming in and doing and getting what he wants,
Yeah.
And that's like something that's very rooted in our culture, and I think they want you to see that and experience it and like not feel good about it.
Yeah. I just sigh because, oh yes. Yeah.
You see the picture though, right? Like that's where I think this is coming from. I'm not saying that I'd like it or that I think like it had to be there.
No,
I don't. Yeah.
I'm not sighing in boredom at you. I'm sighing in boredom at the Marxism and the yes, the white man bad. Even though every advancement and whatnot has been developed by Europeans and Asians, and the thing is, I've gotten to the point. Well, remember, I come from an academic background, so, and the thing is, I've had to have dinner with people who've, said you're white, so you have a natural instinct towards sexual assault and wanting to colonize and destroy and whatnot. When I was younger, I tried to say, now hold on, I would never. But now I'm like, no, that's your sexual fantasies. Fuck off. And to those people. But the only reason I've developed that attitude is because, the first time someone told me I was like that, I was about 11 or 12. So this is rooted in our culture. Wherever, globalism is touched, we get that. But the sad truth of it is there was not as much colonial rape as what people wish there was. And I know that's going to seem like a controversial take. We know for a fact that's the case. From also behavior patterns of today and from the ancient world. But as to this is just more of the same at this point. It's just more of the white man bad thing. When the truly shocking thing would be if they, had her assault him. I'm partially joking, but I'm thinking of that one Michael Crichton novel, Disclosed, where they have the very beautiful, I think it's Latina woman, Demi something, assault a middle-aged Christian guy.
I gotta look this up and save it because I think you've told me about this before.
Yeah, Disclosed has it's more business drama, but the guy is up for a promotion, but the upper levels of the company don't want to give it to him, so they arrange to have him caught in a sexual misdemeanor. But the thing is, she desires him, she assaults him, and he thinks of his wife and decides, no, wait, hold on. Because he was about to go through with it, then he says, no, I actually can't. Then she actually genuinely tries to sexually assault him. And, he flees. But the thing is, he's accused of rape. And this is written in 1994, I believe, or 93. And it was a shocking novel, and it's turned into a movie, and it was a really good movie. But all I'm saying is, I remember when I first read that, and then saw the movie, I was shocked. You know why? It's like you get so used to the other way around, you can never imagine the reverse. Now, I'm not saying you can't have rape in your stories. You can. but you need to approach it like an adult, not as a weapon to, say this group of people is bad. Like, I don't want to see that used in a manner that's like, okay, let me think. All the I'll go with a safe option here. All Japanese bad because, rape. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, the Japanese are an honorable and noble people. Like, don't, you know what I mean? Like, don't group them all in together. Um, and that's the thing. And we have the criminal stats. We have the crime stats for, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of European countries, for America, for Asia, whatnot. And we know proportionally, we do the least amount of raping. So
Yeah, but it's not about facts. It's not about stats, though. Like, none of that
yeah,
matters.
that's the problem. I'm autistic, so I think in terms of history and statistics, and
Yeah.
and not
But I wanted to
feelings.
get. So
But
I did want to
Andor,
talk more about this Bix character, though.
Bix,
Because one thing that I wanted, we had discussed on Substack, like, I was going to watch more of it to see
mm-hmm,
and form more of an educated opinion. And I do think that it was primarily for shock. And I mean, it seems like this Bix character was in the show to undergo a lot of hardship and torture and psychological torture, that seems to be about it. And she's
mm,
in there to give Cassian Andor, to let him see that, oh, there's a way out of this revolution, there's a way out of this rebellion. I could just have a life with her, and we could just go away. And that was strong aspect of the writing, in my opinion, because that should be a discussion in someone that's mired in a war where they don't understand, like, well, okay, but how is this going to actually benefit me? Like, am I really going to give this my life? That should be a discussion, right? Like, especially if you're in this like revolutionary sort of place. But her response is, well, I really didn't like this. I hated it. She decides to flee and run away and send him a message, a hollow cast or a hollow message saying, like, hey, I had to run away because I really think the rebellion, you're too important to the rebellion to let me get in the way. And so I have to leave and go somewhere where you don't know, even though I really do love you. I don't know. What do you have any thoughts on that? I know you didn't see the whole show, but like, just on what I said, like, how does that feel to you? I didn't love it for me because, like, I think maybe it didn't like that it was sent through a hollow message, but
a Dear John letter, basically.
yeah, a Dear John.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't really know or care.
yeah,
But I don't know the characters, so I can't care about them.
yeah. It's hard to
But
make that call if you haven't seen it.
but that being said, Dear John letters in TV shows and movies are it's always a little boring. Because why not have
That's
the
what I
actual
thought.
scene and like the drama right in front of you? I'd rather see the drama unfold. Um, but as far as enduring hardship, um, I would say it's one show that was really good at showcasing characters having to endure a lot of hardship was Rome. Because look at, well,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they screwed up Niobe's death scene, but in there, Titus Pullo and Lucius Varenus endure constant hardship and suffering, from the loss of spouses to the loss of relationship with children to the loss of a liege lord, things like that. And it's just loss after loss, humiliation after humiliation, as they try to just simply live. And the it's a fact that life is suffering in a lot of ways. Life is work, life is suffering, and life is love. It's all these things. We have to endure all these things. But I think there's a way, like Star Wars episodes 1 through 3, and even 4 through 6 show, like how far can we push a man before he breaks or something, or before he rises above it. Even the Jedi Knight series has that element in it with Kyle Katarn and even Jaden Core, and Jan Ors, and it's just I don't think the Disney writers know how to write. And I don't think, like, you look at some of the ideas that went into Andor, those that I'm aware of. There's the seeds for good ideas and good stories. But the execution is the problem. And execution is everything in a story. Like, I don't know, I messed up some of the execution in some of my first stories. But then in some of my more recent ones, I've been figuring out how to do it better. And people seem to like that better. Well, you got to try and fail and keep trying. But you have people who've never written, who are suddenly writing these big budget franchises. And or it's possible to write big political drama stuff for, like the rebellion and the empire and whatnot. But you shouldn't forget, like, the thing that people really come to Star Wars for, which is to say lightsabers.
Oh yeah, baby.
And
I love lightsabers.
Yeah, like that's what people.
But I also love starships and
yeah,
and like space fights and X-wings.
Yeah, we all show up for the X-wings.
But good point. Yeah,
the army battles, the lightsabers, the Mandalorians. This is what we come to Star Wars for. Even the political drama, I would argue, we come to Star Wars for. I know a lot of people will
all
say,
of it's part of it.
Yeah, that's all we want. But like a socio historic,
it's all we want, but we want all of it. Sorry, I just had to say that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as for how about a commentary on colonialism? Pass. That's not what Star Wars is about. You want to squeeze that into Marvel? Well, sure. Marvel's a soap opera. Go ahead. But like when I say that, okay, I mean a slop opera, not soap opera. Star Wars is a soap opera in space, but without the sexual assault. And, we actually had sexual assault for the first time in Star Wars. And you can't sell that to kids. Star Wars...
No.
You're supposed to sell it to kids, and you can't.
You are. So you had me... So there's a bunch of things I wanted to respond to what you said, because I had written some notes before just to get I wanted to get like some lingering thoughts on paper about what I felt about Andor and I think this will I will eventually get there to address a lot of what you said. But I said that Andor is sort of like, it's not as good and it's not as complete, because one point that you said was that it has like elements of great writing and has really great pieces. And I think that's how I would describe Andor, is that I said it's basically not as good as the Dark Knight series from Christopher Nolan. And it doesn't have overarching themes that it really executes, but it has lots of, basically what it does is it prioritizes sequencing events leading into the movie Rogue One over any overarching like important theme. Maybe it does, but I don't think they really do a good job. And it's like it's similar but even though it's like it's an espionage political thriller that's taking place in Star Wars, as opposed to a Star Wars movie that has elements of espionage and political intrigue. Does that make sense? Like because the Dark Knight series and from a lot of people's view, a lot of Batman fans' view, was that it was basically a action thriller that took place with like with Batman costuming. Like it could have been a great movie without Batman, and a lot of the settings, like a lot of the style of the movie wasn't very comic booky. And so I think that what they did with this show is very similar to what they did with The Dark Knight, which they basically said we want to attract a certain audience, maybe of 25 to 34 year olds who really like HBO classics like Game of Thrones and The Wire. And we want to put that in the Star Wars universe, but that's sort of a second priority.
Okay.
Do you think that from the Dark Knight comparison, do you think that that's fair to say that about the Dark Knight, first of all?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Dark Knight was a very different piece of fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this. I think that while I liked The Dark Knight, it's become a little overrated. by some. But I
That
think
that that that's fine. Yeah.
though, now, was it a spectacular thriller? Yes. But and but this is also going to sound a little weird. I think the Star Wars writers should not have been trying to outperform it or outdo it at its own game because they already beat it at its own game. It's called Star Wars Episode 3. Episode 3 arguably was a better version of The Dark Knight than Dark Knight. Episode 3 took things further and put them to an extent in their proper context. Technically, arguably, what Bruce is trying to do in there is restore order to a broken city. Anakin is trying to restore order to a broken galaxy. Now, how far can you push it towards order? You know what I mean? Like, how far can you centralize things and spy on people and force people to conform with your vision? You know, like, how far can you push the liberal democratic order before it shatters or before it becomes darker? Well, Dark Knight kind of, for lack of a better term, cucked out on it. It completely backed away because Bruce was going further and further, but then, you know, backs up and they try to justify him. Whereas Episode 3 goes all the way and shows that, you know, like, there's a thin line there. You know what I mean? Like, because at the beginning, Anakin is more moral than Bruce Wayne. But by the end, the dude makes Joker and Harvey Dent look like Superman because he's just gone that bonkers. And it took a lot of ideas further. Now, don't get me wrong. Dark Knight has some great ideas, great philosophy. It's a great movie. It deserves its status. But Star Wars has already beaten it. And it's not just in, how do I put it? It's also in the culture and on the commercial level. Episode 3 has outsold Dark Knight. Episode 3 culturally has had a bigger impact in that it had, you know, like, every movie has to have a fight that, you know, like, has to try to outdo Episode 3. They need to have the hero and the villain maybe have a dialogue clashing with each other. You know what I mean? Like, they have to, you know, like, a lot of the beats have to be repeated. And this is the thing, like, and what people forget is that Dark Knight was trying to, it was aspiring in a way after the shadow of Episode 3. Because Darth Vader has a big cape and casts a long shadow. And arguably, like, that's the thing. But that's where I don't understand why Andor, you know, was chasing that shadow. I don't know if that's a stupid answer or what have you, but I don't know.
Yeah. And a lot of it to me is just the way that they look and feel and not necessarily even the story. But even though that I did make that comparison.
The look and feel are probably there.
The look and feel with Andor, and I realize that part of this is because limitations with TV. And I give Star Wars TV some slack because there's it's challenging to have to build all of these sets and having to build the technology and the CG for all of it. Should I be doing that in your opinion? Like, do you think that that's? I mean, I've done a little research, like on the Star Wars tried to make Underworld. Lucas tried to make this Underworld TV series, but the problem was that they couldn't pay for it.
Yeah. When it comes to that Galaxy Far, Far Away TV series, I think it had potential. But the financing was the problem. But the idea of a Gotham-style, like, Undercity type drama and whatnot, or, like, this is an exciting idea. It could work. You can borrow from Gotham, but you also have to keep it Star Wars-y. You know what I mean? You can get into the drug trade, the slave trade. You can get into that stuff. But, you know, like, one story that actually approached this and had a almost Gotham City vibe and did it very maturely, yet was kid-friendly, was the Jango Fett video game.
Definitely. That was, I had so much hope in that project.
Yeah. That was a great game.
for years. I was so plugged into all the news and was so excited, and we didn't get it.
Well, we got a Jango Fett game. I've beaten it a number of times.
We got the Django. We did get a Bounty Hunter game, but we didn't get. Yeah. So that was Jango Fett.
Yeah. You were thinking
Underworld was going to be what? Yeah. But Underworld was going to be, it was definitely going to be a bigger, more ambitious project, right?
Yeah. What I hoped was that if we got I remember being young and hoping for a TV series of Star Wars so that we'd get like an hour-long lightsaber duel. But
just an hour, one long TV show, just a lightsaber duel, 1 hour long.
It's just awesome. If every episode was going to be like an hour to an hour and 30 minutes, why not have it start if it was going to be, let's say, 20 episodes, why not have it start in episode 15 and that's the lead up to the climax and whatnot, have an hour long lightsaber duel. But yeah, why not? And I would argue Disney has the budget for this. And so do their, what's essentially their owners, BlackRock. They got the cash for this. Why not flush the cash for a good, proper lightsaber happy TV series that gets into the seedy underbelly of the galaxy, like Bounty Hunter did? But except Bounty Hunter didn't have that much lightsaber. But the problem is the whole let's defy expectations or subvert expectations nonsense. And they're lazy people. They're like, why would we lean all the way in? Like, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but one miniseries movie was called The 10th Kingdom in the year 2000.
No, I haven't.
Okay. It's if you consider it a movie, it's, I think, the longest movie ever shot. It's 7.5 hours. It was a mind-blowingly long viewing. Like, you can watch this, and it's like 7 to almost 8 hours long. If you get on DVD and you watch it like in one go, it's something for a great sick day or like day off or something with the kids. It's freaking awesome. But they basically shot it as a father and daughter who are thrown into a fairy tale world and have to deal with the seedy underbelly of the fairy tale universes centuries after the princesses of the fairy stories we all know and love have died. So they're having to survive the seedy underbelly together with a werewolf. What do you think? So
it's on Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you can
watch it.
See this.
It's freaking cool. It was one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my life. I love this thing. I'm obsessed with it. But you see, and my brother and I shot some. We recorded some audio reviews of it. But
this is so 90s, by the way. This description here. Sorry, the Virginia and Tony go on with their normal Manhattan lives when suddenly, in a world. But it seems cool. I'm not making fun of it. I think it looks cool.
No, I get it. You're right. But it is so 90s. But that's what Star Wars should be like.
But that's awesome.
So freaking 80s or 90s. But like,
so Star Wars should be freaking 80s or 90s.
Yeah, like, why? Like, you look at episode 1. That thing is so 90s. Like, even with the plot twists, with the, the shock at the end of Darth Maul pulling out the lightsaber, then flicking on both sides. That was such a 90s twist. That was such a 90s twist. But, like, you can do that. That's your core audience. But the thing is, if you lean into that, you will get the fathers bring their sons. The guys who were kids in the 90s now are fathers. You'll get them. But you don't do it by bringing sexual assault into the room. And the thing is, that's the one no-go. And, but as for 10th Kingdom, I will definitely be writing articles about that down the road. Because
I'll put it on my list as well.
Okay.
That sounds fun.
Like I said, Daniel and I did a podcast on it, but never uploaded it. And then it just, the files are no longer, I think they're corrupted. Because I've tried getting them to work and they don't. So what we could always do is later on maybe shoot with you review podcast of every
Absolutely.
like
A
hour
mini
of it.
series, a mini podcast just about this. That'd be great.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But this,
yeah.
yeah. But I think with like I said, there's a story with the seedy underbelly of Star Wars. Andor has all the seeds for a great Star Wars story, but like they harvested weeds instead of flowers. And I'd even argue that there's room for, like, hell, Viera Fell, from the Kenobi timeline, the character my brothers and I created was supposed to basically be, before she becomes a Jedi, someone who explores the seedy underbelly of the Empire. Before, and she gets lost in it, and then she becomes a Jedi, thanks to Luke and others, and becomes a better version of herself. That's basically, she was supposed to basically be a female Han Solo before she goes Jedi and becomes more like Genkai from Yu Yu Hakusho. She becomes more of a positive figure and a more feminine one. So this is the sort of thing which, like I said, it's not that I don't believe in this sort of plot. I do. I just think they went about it the wrong way.
You've got me thinking about one aspect of I consider the seedy underbelly of Star Wars to be one of the strongest things about Star Wars, and it has been done very well, I think, across the smaller, like, books and video games. But the white whale has always been to bring it to the big screen. I think that's been the white whale for quite some time. I think the problem is a lot of the fans said, well, we don't want to do it with lightsabers. We want to do it without Jedi. Like, let's leave the Jedi out. They've been in the main stories. And I don't see why that has to be a hard requirement and why that would make it better. I just think they need to, like, I don't know if they have to be there, but I don't see why they can't either. Like, I don't know. Like, do you know that was like the main goal for Rogue One was to not have any Jedi?
I don't see the point.
And they didn't allow it. They had to put Vader in, which I enjoyed a lot. And I thought it improved them. Well, it was shock value, but it was cool.
This might sound weird, but I don't see the point. If there's not going to be Jedi in it, if there's not going to be Mandalorians and Jedi in it, or starfighter fights, what's the point? And I'd even argue...
Could be anything, then.
Yeah, like, why not stick in Star Trek? I don't care. I'm not going to watch it. But Rogue One also retconned out Kyle Katarn and Jay Norris, two of my favorite characters. So I was automatically hostile, and what little I've seen of Rogue One has filled me with hatred for it. And with disgust also towards even the Vader scene. Because like it's just, I found him at his most weak and retarded. Because it doesn't make any sense to me that the Death Star plans could escape him there. He is so incompetent. Jar Jar Binks could have done a better job. Because, like, you let them go. They've got the plans. My Vader would have just collapsed that entire part of the building and just said, all right, Force reaches out for the plans and it whips into his hand. Why didn't he just do that? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, plans can't get out if the plans are destroyed.
Or there's that. Like, the thing is, we know he can do that because we've seen him do it in the comics, in the video games, and in the what have you. So this is a matter of Disney's... The producers of the films and the scriptwriter were retarded. That's the simple answer. Whereas, at least with the Kyle Katarn answer, there's logic. But that's the thing. Like, yeah. The problem is, why would I go into Star Wars if I'm not going to see the Jedi and the Sith clash? That's like 9 out of the 10 reasons we want to see it. The other reasons might be...
Yeah, none of like, I can't think of like any book that doesn't have some Jedi in it, really.
Yeah, well, it's because they're the main characters.
Yeah, actually, I can think of one, but I don't even... Yeah. Like
the Boba Fett novels don't really have too many... Like, they've got some Jedi, but they're good. Like, they balance it out with some solid writing. And, like... And the trouble is also that like, well, we're going to have Star Wars without any lightsabers. Why the hell would we want to go in and watch that then? And I'll even argue something a little controversial. Let's say we had we're going to make a Han Solo movie. It's going to be Han's backstory. That was never going to attract viewers. Not even if you had Harrison Ford in his prime. No, it wouldn't sell. The reason being, Han Solo's 1/3 of the point here, or 1/3 of the draw. The other 2/3 are Luke and Leia. Now, Han can sell really well when he's with Leia, just as Leia sells really well when she's with Han. The pair basically come as a pair. So Solo was always destined to fail, not simply because of some weird messaging, but simply because people love Lando. People love Han. But you know what else they love? They love Leia and Luke. And
wasn't it so fun to see how they deal with magical space Jedi wizards? Like they're just normal humans, and they still figure it out, and they still are really important, and that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, that's true. But like I said, I'm not trying to bash Han. I love.
But
Han.
that's why it's important to have the Jedis in it, though, because they're there to
they're the main characters.
Even as powerful as Luke is, even as powerful as Vader is, it's like these guys, these normal human beings, they still are important, and they're not afraid. Maybe they're afraid, but they're brave.
But if you're gonna make a movie about Han, why not set it when Leia and Luke are in their 20s and Leia's first getting her Jedi training, which that's when she got it. Why not showcase that and Han having to wrap his head around the fact that his wife is, becoming more powerful than he could ever imagine. And he's going from being her rescuer to being kind of the rescued. And also, but we could get some great starfighter scenes because, he's the master of that. Leia could never equal him in a starfighter. So, they would both have their strengths and virtues. I'd watch an entire series about Leia and Han in their 20s, just going around the galaxy. But, the fact that, when Leia appears without Han, it doesn't, people don't seem to care. But people care more when they're put together because they're a great pair. They have great chemistry. They're great characters together. But you separate them, people just aren't interested. It's just the way it is. You need to, part of writing, you also need to be a marketer. You need to know, what's popular with people. I could write my, for example, my Brotherhood of the Gemstone novel is doing pretty well on Royal Road and has done pretty well on Substack. But the thing is, people from what I'm told, one of the main couples. But if I was to suddenly have one of them just go off and, I could separate the pair, but inevitably have to bring them together again. But if there's not, if I was to write a novel about one of them and never include the other, except as an off-screen presence, I don't think people would care about that. So, you need to know your fans on some level.
Yeah.
Sorry for the tangent. It's just...
No, I think they do have a hard time understanding their fans.
Because...
I think that's been a struggle.
And this is something that also the book authors eventually forgot. Because, the book authors at first knew, let's make a Han and Leia love story. And, you keep them together. But after a while, they were like, what if we keep separating Han and Leia? Well, people stopped caring. Those books didn't do as well. People wanted to see Han and Leia together. Because, it's the most popular Star Wars couple of all times. So, you gotta understand that it's so popular, maybe you just give that fan service. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Something that I love, that I think needs to be brought together is great ingredients like lion's mane mushroom, chlorophyll, matcha, B vitamins, L-theanine. Gotcha. Yeah. Magic Mind brings all those things together into one great shot for productivity and for mental clarity. It's a mental performance shot that I take every day. And they even have it in gummy form, which I've been wanting to. Yeah. Do you like gummies?
So it's the
I
Han
love
and Leia
gummies.
of mental juice.
You have, yes, basically Magic Mind is the Han and Leia of mental juice. That's what I've been saying all along. And right now, yeah, it's just like what I always like to tell people is about all these great ingredients, which I just mentioned, because good luck getting them all together in one little convenient drink that actually tastes good and I look forward to having every day. Today I put it in a fruit smoothie and it tasted so good. And with us, you get a discount. And the discount is for up to 40% off a subscription. So you can get a delivery once a month, or you could just get a one-time purchase, which you can also use this discount code for. So if you go to, which some may call a productivity hack, if you go to magicmind.com/SWLC40 and use the code SWLC40, you will get 40% off your first subscription. And this is only available for the first 10 orders. So go and grab them. Don't wait. But I don't have a whole lot more time, but I did have maybe one or two things that I just wanted to get off my chest from the show, from Andor. There is one character that I thought was very well written and really someone that I would think a lot about, because I thought that he was so interesting and relatable, but they did not stick the landing, in my opinion. But the character's name is Cyril, and he's just like a run-of-the-mill security Coruscant, like sort of security officer, and he really messes up in his career, and because of that, he has to go move in with his mother, and she's kind of like this woman that's like from the Bronx, like this old lady like from the Bronx who is, what would you call it? Like, what is someone that like over mothers? What do you call that? Like a helicopter mother?
Smothering.
Like she's just like smothering, totally smothers him, and he has to swallow his pride and move in with her, and she belittles him all the time, and he goes from someone that the reason why he gets in trouble is because he is so focused on doing what he thinks is the right thing. So he goes on this mission and he wants to go arrest someone. But I'm just vaguely recalling that what he was trying to do though, like he made someone important look bad, and he didn't know that was like, how important that could be in a job, is to not make a superior or an important person look bad. Because he was just like, I'm just doing the right thing. I'm doing my job. And I felt like to show someone that really wanted to be good, really wanted to be just, and like want something better out of life. I was like, I like this as a character. I really like that as a character. And so in the second season, he like basically gets together with one of the other with a Imperial security officer, and she uses him as an asset in one of her missions. And he's really excited about it because he thinks he's doing something very purposeful, and he thinks he's really being helpful. But really he's basically being used as a patsy and doesn't know it. And it's kind of interesting, and it creates like this really cool conflict. But he ends up like realizing what's going on. He ends up realizing that he's just being used. And he turns to the rebellion side essentially kind of at the end, but then he dies and he's killed by Cassian Andor. And I thought that was the most interesting part of the show, but then it kind of just ends. And I don't really think they gave him, I was like, what are you trying to say? Like, what is the message? I'm like, I feel like I'm being left to dry. And so when he was killed, the show like kind of was killed for me in a way, like it happened maybe in like episode 6 or episode 9. But after that, I was just like, oh, you killed my favorite character. He was the one that had like the most interesting character background. But now I'm like, I don't know what to make of this.
Well,
I know it's hard for you to say anything about that when you haven't seen it, but
yeah, it is. Any other questions?
I don't know. I just had to get that off my chest. Maybe the people who've seen it can relate. But no, that's really, I think that is about it. So I think we've talked about like maybe some other ideas. So I think next we talked about this Revenge of the Sith we wanted to discuss next, right?
Mm-hmm. 20th anniversary.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're gonna do another episode of the Kenobi timeline.
After that,
or actually, by the time this comes out, well, we have already gotten that done.
Yeah. And by the time this comes out, my crowdfund probably would have started.
Okay.
Which, well, you'll be able to find. I'll be posting it. I post it quite often on Substack every few days. The pre-launch page is up at the time of this recording, and it's only going to be $500 Canadian, which is probably like $200 or so dollars American, or $250 or something, because our dollar is about half as good as yours, and hopefully that'll be enough. But as it is, the idea is that, you know, this will pay for an entire book, an anthology for people to enjoy, which will be mostly high fantasy, semi-sword and sorcery stuff. Basically, the kind of stuff like Star Wars set in fantasy land rather than space.
Very cool. So yeah, on our side, we'll have another discussion on Revenge of the Sith because it's the 20th anniversary. So that will be something to look forward to. But until then, thank you all for tuning in. Of course, check out the Brothers Krynn on Substack. Visit the Star Wars Loose Cannon Substack if you're just listening to this on your Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We're doing lots of fun things on Substack. So come on over there. Also, make sure to go check out Magic Mind, as that is our sponsor, and I think you would really enjoy the product because I do, and that's magicmind.com/SWLC40 to get and discount code SWLC40. So definitely give that a try. But without further ado, may the Force be with you all. This is where you're supposed to say, may the Schwartz be with you all.
Oh, may the Schwartz be with you all.
All right, everyone. See you later.